At this time, we're going to introduce Lynn. So come on up, Lynn. Lynn is a dear friend, sister in Christ. I've known her for quite a few years. We shared some quite awesome times together, from things we could laugh about and cry together with also. Yes. And just to know I love you.
Thank you very much. You're so kind. Thank you all for having me today. I really appreciate it very much. It's an honor to be here, and especially with Nanny Lee. That is so awesome. I had no idea. And she was such a fan, and she was always so kind and loving, and she had such a huge heart. So I think that was a wonderful, when I came here today and found that out. That just made my heart melt. So I thought that I would start us off with some music, if that's okay. Yes. Is that all right with you guys? Okay. His heart was broken, mine was mended. He became sin, now I am clean. The cross he carried for my burdens, and the nails that held him set me free. His life for mine, his life for mine. How could it ever be that he would die, God's Son would die to save a wretch like me? What love divine, he gave his life for mine. His scars of suffering brought me healing. He spilled his blood to fill my soul. His crown of thorns made me royalty. His sorrow gave me joy untold. His life for mine, his life for mine. How could it ever be that he would die, God's Son would die to save a wretch like me? What love divine, he gave his life for mine. He was despised and rejected, stripped of his garments and oppressed. I am loved and respected, and I wear a crown of righteousness. His life for mine, his life for mine. How could it ever be that he would die, God's Son would die to save a wretch like me? What love divine, he gave his life for mine. there should be absolutely over the top that he gave his life for yours. So today, because I'm so honored to speak to you all, the kind of speaker I am is that I like to interact. If I notice you're going to sleep, I'm going to call your name out. I might not know your name, but I can look at what you're wearing, and I will say, hey, can you hit the person beside you? So don't go to sleep. I love being able to speak because I'm able to do something that my husband is super amazing at, and so I just try to keep up whenever I'm asked. So, and thank goodness God did not give him the ability to sing, because it would probably be better than me, because that's just how it works for my husband. So, just to give you a little bit about myself, if you do not know who I am, most of you do, but if you don't, my name is Lynn Cooper. My husband's name is Joe Don Cooper from the Bullock community. We've been together now 22 years married, 27 years together total. Feels like 90. And so we have 3 children. Jaden, she is 18. Charlie, who is 17. And Jackson, he is 9. Jaden's in college at Liberty University. Charlie will be attending Pfeiffer University on a softball scholarship this coming fall. And Jackson will still be at home spoiled rotten. And so that's how that will work. I graduated from Campbell University in 1999, and I now work for Granville County. I'm the Economic Development Assistant to the Director, and I run the office. And that's just a little tiny bit about myself currently. If you know anything about my testimony, I've shared it with many people here. I did not grow up in a good Christian home. I grew up very different than a lot of people, and I use my testimony and my story to encourage others and let them know that Christ is victorious in your life if you allow it. Don't be a victim. So in thinking about that, when I was asked to speak today, I really laid on my heart and I prayed about it. And I love when I'm able to speak, I want you to remember something. I want you to take something with you out of what I'm going to talk to you about. It might be one thing, but I want you to remember. So before I start, I want to know, you can have a piece of paper. All women have pens in their bags. So piece of paper or write it on your hand. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. I want to know, when was the last time you allowed God to use you? Not for yourself. When did you allow God to use you for his purpose, not for your purpose? Write it down. It could be 2 years ago. It could be 1 day ago. I want to know what it was for and how long ago. Everyone write something. Let me see. When were you used? And how long ago was that? For God, not for yourself. It makes you think, doesn't it? How long ago has it been? You see, everyone has a past. Everyone has struggles. Everyone in here has fears. Everyone. We all have flaws, each and every one of us. Even Pastor Jackie has flaws. So, in saying that, when you start to research things about yourself, you're going to find out what struggles you deal with, but also, has anyone in here ever done research on your own family, genealogy? Okay, I didn't know a lot about my family, so in doing that, I have learned quite a bit about my family. And I've learned where they came from, what type of living situation they had. I learned a lot of things about them. And one positive thing is I've learned that I am a direct line to a Revolutionary War patriot, so I'm able to be in the Daughters of the Revolution Society, which I thought was the coolest thing ever because I love history, and that's one of my favorite things. But that's a positive thing. But also when doing research with your family, you find out what they really dealt with, the struggles, the things that people go through. With that being said, when you learn that, think about the people and the women of the Bible. Now, when you think about the women of the Bible, when you're listening to them and what they go through, if you've been in church throughout your life, if you've had that wonderful gift that I did not have growing up, you're familiar with names and women in the Bible. You're familiar with certain names. Mary. Who else can give me a name? Sarah. There you go. Exactly. So these names come to your mind when you hear something, women of the Bible. But have you really taken the time to know certain women of the Bible? Have you really studied what they dealt with? Because there's a lot of fascinating and powerful women that had really important roles throughout the Bible. And although we see their names and we're familiar with their names, do you really know what they dealt with? And are you able to really relate their struggle to yours in today's time? Because what we tend to do is forget they were women just like us. They had to cook, right? Yeah? I cook. I love to cook. They had to take care of children. They were mothers. What else? Tell me something else. Some owned businesses. Some of them, they had husband issues because husbands don't listen. You know? So some had husband issues. Some had women issues, as I tell my children, women issues. Some were concerned for their family's safety. I mean, they dealt with things just like we do. Do we remember that when we're studying these women? Do you really think about that? Some cried. Some had fear. Some of them showed so much courage and faith that it's unbelievable. So they really can relate to us just like today, because we all have something we demonstrate every day. Do you demonstrate the qualities that some of these women did in the Bible, even though thousands of years ago, they're still just like us? Don't forget that. So, my question to you again is, are you allowing God to use you the way He wants you to be used? Are you allowing it? Not for yourself, but for Him. So, I'm going to mention the first woman to you. Most of you know, anyone who's been to church knows her name. But I chose her for a reason. There's 3 different women I'm going to bring up today. The first one is Mary. We talk about Mary 1 month of the year. When is that? Christmas. Oh, Mary, it's just a Christmas time. We think about her then. She's so important at Christmas. And other than that, you don't really talk about her. So let's stop and think about why I brought up Mary today as such an important person, other than being the mother of Jesus. Let's put it in a women's viewpoint. How old was Mary? She was a teenager, correct? Okay? Who can get a teenager to do anything today? Seriously, think of this. So you have a teenager, we can't get teenagers to clean their room. Much less, here is a teenager who has no wealth. She is an everyday person, just like us. She was engaged to be married to Joseph. And she had one thing about her. She was a virgin. Okay? So just imagine for a moment being a teenage girl, carrying on with your daily life of no stature or importance in that sense, and the angel appears and tells you, you are going to be the mother of Jesus. Now, I'm going to let you guys know that if I'm in my bedroom and an angel shows up to tell me that I'm going to be the mother of baby Jesus, I'm either going to get my gun and shoot it thinking something's wrong, or I think I'm dreaming and I'm going to go back to sleep. Think about that. How would you react? how would you guys react? What do you think? Would you be afraid? Afraid. Do you think at a teenage, at that mentality, you would automatically be like, oh, okay, no problem. Sure, okay. I'm sorry, I've got to go out with my friends in about 2 hours, so you need to let me know what time this is all going to take place. That's how teenagers work. I need to get my phone. Let me check my schedule. Isn't that true? So if you think about a teenage mentality, think about, she didn't have life figured out. She didn't have everything perfect. Nothing like that. But the amazing thing is that the one thing she did have, being a virgin, was about to be taken away. Think about that. That's what she had. So now she has to go to Joseph and tell him, this is what's happened. That's the one thing she had that made her different. And now that's gone. So what did she do when the angel spoke to her? This sounds very simple, but it's actually, we don't think about it. What did she do? She immediately responded. Immediately. And no hesitation states, I'm the Lord's servant. What teenager responds that quickly to anything we ask them to do today? They don't. That's just being real. So how magnificent is it that this woman, this young girl, automatically responded and said, I'm the Lord's servant. No questions asked, no hesitation. She was allowing herself to be used by God. No questions asked. Stop and think about that. Her mentality, her age. That's amazing to me. Amazing. So I wanted to bring that to light about Mary. Think about her next Christmas when you think about her. Or before then, think about how she really felt, especially at that age, with nobody. That's amazing. It's very amazing. Now, so she displayed so much courage, bravery, and commitment. She had the complete willingness to obey God. Do we do that? Do we have the complete willingness to obey God every day? I know I don't. I'm just like everybody else. But that is an amazing woman. Nothing else mattered to her but what God asked her to do. Next person has to be one of my favorite women of the Bible. She just is. And people do talk about her quite often, but I could spend months talking about Rahab. I think she's amazing. Now, why? Most of you know the basic story of Rahab. In the Joshua chapter 2, the Hebrews were camped out and in the Jordan Valley across from Jericho. Joshua sent the 2 spies, just to catch you up, sent the 2 spies to examine the fighting force. The spies, they came to Rahab's her establishment, as you want to call it, establishment. So they come to her establishment, and so in doing that, she hides the 2 spies, and she keeps them hidden so they cannot be caught. In doing that, before they leave, she asks them if they will, because she has heard of God, and she says, will you tell him, and that way they can protect my family? And he says, and they say, yeah, the spies escape, and they agree to spare her family. That's just a brief little summary if you're not familiar. Now, in the Bible, when you see Rahab's name, what is it always followed with? The harlot? The prostitute? Right. Because that's what she was. A lot of your theologians, and I've noticed people have tried to soften that term. They don't like that. They rather say innkeeper. But you know what I have a problem with? Is I have a problem with the fact that you are who you are. Let God use you regardless of who you are. And I mean that with the most sincere heart. With that being stated, if you look at in the Bible, her name is always followed with the prostitute or the harlot. That her past never leaves her. Now, she was a foreigner, right? She was a Canaanite. She was a citizen of a wicked city. Her job was not of the best statute, to say the least. That was not seen as a great job to have. She's there. She has this experience with these spies. Had God ever specifically spoken to her? No. She had heard of what they had done in the Red Sea. She did not. God had never shown himself to her. But this woman decided, without hesitation, to give up her own people, where she lived. She had to somehow find a way to get her entire family into her establishment. Now, I'm just going to be real with you, ladies. If your sister is a prostitute and she calls you up and says, hey, look, I need you to come over and hang out, I'm sure most of you probably would not go. Am I wrong or am I right? I'm real with people. I'm being real. Because we will block someone on Facebook for putting a political ad up we don't like. We have arguments with our own family members over silly things that has to do with a plate or a bowl. So, I could see this being a really hard task. She had never had an angel didn't appear before her. She didn't have that. She did this all on faith. She did this. How amazing is that? Gave up everything. And then she didn't worry about what she was doing in her life. She didn't even care about her past. We care about our past every day. Well, I can't do that. I did that when I was 10. Do we not? Well, I upset someone the other week, and it's best I just stay away for a while. How often do we do that? I know I'm not the only person that does that, so I need to see some heads moving. Right. Okay. All right. So she was not the most educated. She was still a woman. And the thing of it is, what do women like to do? We love to take care of our families. That's our nature. As a woman, we want to take care of our children and our family. We want our families to be okay. She wanted that for her family, regardless. And with that, she sat there and she did everything she could and got all of her family in her home. I just really see that as a very hard task. I can't even get all my family to come eat dinner on a Sunday because they're busy. Well, I need you in this house because, we're going to have somebody come knock Jericho down, and I really need you to come stay. And I can see someone, what is she talking about? No. And we have problems like that with our family. Can't get them to come visit. So how hard was that for her to do? How hard was it for her to give up everything? Everything she's known. The other gods she worshiped. And no hesitate. She hesitated nothing. No questions asked. Done. Did it. How often do you do that? When something hits you like that and you feel God tugging at you or telling you something, how often do you go, I got it, okay, no problem? Or do you go, well, I got to go to the grocery store. I just really don't have time to do that today. Or, I got a great one. This is the best. When you're at the grocery store and you see someone at church that you haven't seen in a while, and they know they haven't been at church, and you're like, I should go speak with them. Nah, I'm going to go this way. I don't really want to hear what they have to say today. Ladies, do not look at me like I'm the only person that has thought this way in my lifetime. You think that. I know you do. How often when you're walking in the grocery store or you're going somewhere else and you haven't fixed yourself up, I don't want to see them. No, I haven't got myself ready. I've done that 100 times. Sorry. And you just take off and you don't tell them what you really should tell them. We do that. So with that being said, she truly did not care what it took and what it cost. Do you do that? And if you do that, are you allowing yourself to be used by God? Such an amazing woman. And if you stop and think about it, I want to tell you two things you probably know. But with Rahab, most of you should know, she's in the lineage of Jesus. correct? So the person that was the worst of the worst is in the lineage of Jesus. God can use anybody. If there's something that I'm very sensitive about, I'm sensitive when I see people look down to others or cross at others as if, why are they here? God has a plan for each and every person. You might not know what it is, but he has a plan. So he had a plan for her. And one of the most amazing things is he transformed her. She became the first Gentile to Judaism. Next thing you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar, chapter 11 of Hebrews is called the Hall of Faith. It's like all the most faithful people are listed in the chapter 11 of Hebrews. There's only 2 women mentioned in that whole chapter, Sarah and Rahab. Nobody else is mentioned, no other woman. That's the only 2. Look at the differences of those women. But they are the ones mentioned. And Rahab's name is in there. Such an amazing person. So awesome. So that is somebody that I wanted to make sure you realize just how great she really is and how she never hesitated for God. She never questioned anything. She just did it. Just like Mary. Do you do that? Do you allow God to use you that way for him? Now, the last person I'm going to talk to you about, I was not very familiar with. And I'm probably going to say her name wrong. Why? Because that's just something I do. That's just one of my little flaws. Is it pronounced? Is it Jael? Jael? How's it pronounced?
I say Jael.
Jael? Okay. I want to make sure. Does anyone know who she is? You ever heard of her? She's in the book of Judges. Okay? She's very different. I've given you 2 totally different women so far. This woman is also different from the other 2. This is why I used her. Because women all have different qualities, different things about themselves, and they're still used by God. You don't have to be the most virtuous or the perfect or come from the perfect family. He uses the people who allow themselves to be used by God. And she's an example. Very interesting. So, just to give you, most of you don't know who she is. She was an Arabic nomad. How do you pronounce it? Bedouin? Okay. What had happened before, so that way you guys will know what's going on. It's in chapter, in Judges. I'm in this is chapter 4, if you ever need to go look. So Israel was at war with the Canaanites. And God had sold Israel into the hand of Jabin, the king of Canaan, because the Israelites, again, were doing what was evil in his sight. At the time, we all know of Deborah. We're familiar with Deborah, okay? She was a prophetess, and she was the judge over Israel at this point in time. And the people went to her with matters. So in Judges 4:6, Deborah summoned a man named Barak, who chose to be the leader of Israel's army against the Jabin forces, against the Canaanites. Sisera was the commander of the Canaanite army, okay? He was a powerful and very cruel man, and he opposed the Israelites. And he oppressed the Israelites, for 20-some years. Deborah told Barak to gather his men for battle, and Barak responded this way: if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I'm not going to go. So Deborah responds and says, okay, I'll go with you. But when we go, you will have no glory when this is over. The glory is going to go to a woman. That's all she said. So they went. And Barak's army met Sisera in the battle in which Sisera would be delivered into the hands of the Israelites. Sisera's army was quickly losing, so in one last effort to save his life, he jumped out of his chariot and he went on foot. So he's on foot. As he's on foot, he goes to a tent. He comes to a tent. And it's Jael at the tent. This is a woman. And she saw him coming. So he knows her family, her husband. I don't know if, oh yeah, let's see. He's the wife of Heber. I can't remember. It's Heber, but I don't remember his last name. In the lineage of Moses. Okay, so they were friends and they were not enemies. So when he saw her tent, he was like, okay, they're not an enemy. I can safely hide there. That's what he thought. So Jael saw Sisera, came out to meet him. She said, turn aside, my lord. And she said, do not be afraid. And she invites him in. He comes in. She covers him up with a blanket. He then says he's thirsty. And she gives him some milk. And he gets really sleepy. Well, when he gets sleepy, and he drifts off to sleep. Right here is what she did. I've never heard of her, but this is amazing. Jael saw her opportunity to act and seized on it. Judges 4:21-22 tells us this. But Jael, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand. She went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple until it went down into the ground while he was lying fast asleep from weariness, and he died. And behold, as Barak was pursuing Sisera, Jael went out to meet him and said to him, come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. So he went into her tent, and there lay Sisera dead with the tent peg in his temple. Now, this war wasn't won by this one deed, but this was the beginning of the end of the Canaanites' reign over Israel. So why did I choose her? This woman was foreign. She wasn't an Israelite. She had a moment, and God used her right then. Now, back then, when you show someone hospitality, if you were to do that the way she did it, they could kill her because that's not what you were supposed to do. She didn't hesitate. She didn't question it. And because of that, she became a hero. And Deborah has a song about her. Now, she also used the tools that were given to her. She didn't have to have a sword. I mean, can you see us now? Well, they want me to cook this cake, but I don't really have any good pans. I'm trying to relate these things to us in a sense that we deal with today, because I'm not going to go put a peg in someone's head. I'm just not going to do that. So what's something you deal with today? She used the tools that were given to her. She had experience putting up tents. That's what she did. She was nomad. So she didn't waste a moment thinking. She simply took up the tools at hand and did what was being asked of her. She just did it. God equips people for the work he puts in front of them. She was ready. She was equipped. Rahab, ready, equipped. No questions asked. Jael, ready, equipped. No questions asked. Mary, no questions asked. Do you allow yourself to be used by God like that? These three women did. And there's so many other ones in the Bible. But I really wanted to show you how they have their priorities straight. And they still dealt with things that we deal with today. Do we have our priorities straight as women of God? I know sometimes I don't. I mess up all the time. But I still want to do what's right for God. Regardless. I always know that whatever is asked of me, I'm just a vessel. And I'm here just to share something musically or by sharing something that I've dealt with. But that's all that I am, a vessel. And these people, these women were vessels also. Are you a vessel? Even at your age, you could be 80 years old. And God still uses you. How old do you think Moses was? 80? That's what he can do. So you have to be available. You have to be ready. Take what you're equipped with. Take what you know. You know what, God? I hear you. I got it. I got it. Forget everything else. I got what you need. That's what I wanted you to hear about with these three women today. Because I know for me that when God lays something on my heart, I do not ask him. I do not question him. I do what he tells me to do. That is something I've tried to do since I've come to know Christ. Regardless. I get things wrong, but that's so important today. Because we're just like these women of the past. And you know, these women didn't wait for someone else to see what they were going to do. How often does that happen to you guys? Someone asks you to do something or something's going on and you're like, well, let me see what so-and-so does first. Don't we do that? What is something that might hold you back from doing something God's asking you to do? Give me some suggestions of things that would hold you back. Sick child. Time. Oh, yes. We love to use our time for ourselves. Time. Exactly. Well, they might think this about me. That's something else. Those things can hold you back. Don't let those things hold you back. It didn't hold these people back. So don't do that. And I really wanted you to know how much that these women are actually just like us. Dig into them. Study them. Because truly, they'll teach you something that you might not have known. And I hope I have given you some type of information today. As a woman who has dealt with so many things in my life, I had so many reasons not to do something. I had so many reasons to quit. My life was horrible growing up. But through Christ, I now today am able to speak to people, share with people. I'm not afraid to be bold. That's just the way I am. And I want other women to be the same way. And it's hard sometimes. People have different personalities. My daughter, Jaden, the oldest, she's shy. She doesn't talk a lot. Until you get to know her. Where, you know, me, I'm like, oh, I'll start talking to you. And Charlie, my middle child, she talks to everybody. And it's hard for some folks. But you have a story, like these women have a story. Share something that Christ has done for you and use that to help someone else and guide them on their way. The way these women can enlighten you on things that they dealt with and guide you on your way as well. And I hope this has done something for some of you guys today. I really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much. And I did what my husband said. He said, feed them and let them go. Do not hold them over. I said, yes, sir. Yep. I think I have one song left. I was going to do one song at the end. Is that right? Okay. Hopefully I do okay, and I'm still on time. All right, get that. If you walk by the tomb of Buddha, look inside, you'll see his bones, and travel on to see Mohammed. He's still wrapped up in his grave clothes. But if you journey to a garden where old Joseph left him to lay, the precious Lamb, God's own begotten, is no longer in that grave. If you knew him like I know him, you would know that he's alive. If you felt him like I feel him. Resurrection deep inside. You know he's living, death has died. If you're wandering out in the darkness, come and step into his light. His nail-scarred hands reach out to help you, to bring you safe from death to life. Yes, I too have been where you've been. Can I trust in things unseen? Just one step in his direction, and his love